3, 2, 1. Bet on Bears fans, another edition of the Chicago Bears podcast coming your way. Pat the Designer, Jason McKie in the building, closing out the week. We got a lot to get into on today's show. There's some buzz around one Travis Etienne that he may not be the starting back down in Jacksonville, and maybe that puts him on the block. Could the Bears be a team that's interested there? I got to talk with a former player, just like Yurko yesterday, about this Shemar Stewart situation, because every hour that goes by, I feel like it gets weirder and weirder and weirder. And at this point, it's like the Bengals just look horrible as an organization. If you're a defensive player, we got to talk about that. Dog of the week as well. We got NBA Finals tonight, and they put the call into the extender, J-Mac. No, that is not weird. Scott Foster's on the way. Basically, he's going to make sure that this series goes 7. All that and more in today's episode of the Chicago Bears podcast. Hit that like button, subscribe to the page, leave a 5-star review. Y'all know what to do. Today's episode is brought to you by the Advantage Dealer Group. Find your next Chevy, Toyota, or Acura and drive off in under 60 minutes, or they'll make your first car payment. Also brought to you by the Hard Rock Casino in Northern Indiana. Las Vegas-style gaming, just 30 minutes from Soldier Field. Exit 6, I-80, 94. J-Mac, what's going on, my guy? How you feeling, man?
Good. That's a lot of sponsors, man. I feel blessed that we have a lot of sponsors. I mean, you did that. That's pretty good, man. That's a lot to say right there.
I got a rap sheet, my guy. I got a rap sheet going here. I got show notes. I like to follow what Greeny does. I like when we in the studio and I dress nice. I got the papers in front of me. It's kind of crazy. It's a little bit. There's a little bit going on. They supporting the podcast. Got to meet the guys from Advantage up at or see them again. I shouldn't say that. We've met them before, but got to see him again up at the golf event. And talk with him a bunch, and great guys up there, man. Appreciate their support. So it's always fun. How you been, my guy?
Good, man. It's been a long week. I'm happy it's Friday. No complaints. Glad to be alive and toasting the end of the week off with some mushroom coffee right here. I know you got your coffee too. So I know I was watching you and Yurko's pod. Some of our viewers are getting mad about all the golf talk. So I'm not going to talk about golf. I will be golfing this weekend.
Here we go.
I will talk about I will be golfing this weekend. Happy early Father's Day to all the great fathers out there. We only get one day throughout the year. Other than that, we get bashed, and we finally get our day. So make sure you guys enjoy your Sunday. Happy Father's Day to all the great fathers out there. You know what I mean? Wishing you guys all the best. Get out on that golf course. That's the only thing I'm talking about. Say about golf, though, Pat. That's it. Don't want nobody to crush me in the comments.
So, J-Mac, how does your golf swing work usually? Never mind. Don't worry about that.
Don't do it. You ain't gonna bake me in there. They ain't gonna dog me out.
Hey, dog me. I don't care. What you gonna do? Hey, man, I will say this, though, jumping into some of the football conversation here, I do think that it is interesting. Some of the names that could be on the block ahead of training camp. Travis Etienne is a name that seems to have popped up here as of recent, and was a little bit banged up last year. Rookie got an opportunity to come in and showed some good things last season as well. And because of that, you know how this league is, J-Mac. If I got somebody younger and a little bit cheaper that I don't have to pay as quickly, that's going to create an opportunity for me to gain some assets and possibly move on and try to keep that position as cheap as possible. But where the Bears are at right now, there could be an opportunity for them to swoop in and maybe try to add a piece to this running back room that maybe they don't have. Now, we've heard the talk around DeAndre Swift. Ben Johnson seems really confident that DeAndre Swift is going to be able to maintain that job, and he's also giving praise to Kyle Monangai here at training camp. I just want to get your eye on this situation. Let's start with the Bears room here.
Yeah, I think we look at it. Yep.
I was going to say, starting off, do you feel comfortable about this Bears running back room heading into the season?
Yeah, I think I'm comfortable. What I have been opposed to them adding another back. I know we didn't get Nick Chubb, and he signed. Who Nick Chubb signed with?
Texans. Then you got Joe Mixon and Nick Chubb together.
Yeah, but at the same time, I think when you're talking about Etienne, right? You got to look at skill sets and fit, right? Mm-hmm. His type of skill set, does it fit what they're trying to do offensively here up there, with the Bears? And I think that when you look at Ben Johnson's scheme, right, heavy outside zone, uses two backs, goes with a hot hand. We saw that in Detroit. Yes, he said things are going to be different, but I think in terms of the running game, I think that's not going to change. I think he likes the utilization of two backs, as you should. Keep it fresh, keep pressure and stress on the defense. So I think that, Travis Etienne, I think his skill set is similar to a DeAndre Swift, but I still would take DeAndre Swift. You look at what Etienne did last year, like you said, they had Tank Bigsby, a guy that came in as a rookie that really produced when he got his opportunities. And if I'm not mistaken, I don't have the stats right now, but I think did Bigsby end up getting more carries? I know he averaged more yards per carry than Travis Etienne, but I think
Tank Bigsby got 100 and hold on, let me see attempts. 2024, 168 attempts last season in 16 games that he did play. Travis Etienne got 150 attempts last season, but he only played in 15 games last season, got banged up for a couple of games.
Correct. And I think when you look, we didn't watch Jacksonville a lot. We watched them when the Bears played them, did all of our studies, especially, for our broadcast covering that game. But when you looked at Jacksonville's running game, when they needed an explosive play or a big play, it was Tank Bigsby making those plays or generating those explosive plays, and it wasn't Travis Etienne. So I think when you're looking at it, am I shocked that Etienne's on the trade block? No. But at the same time, when you look at the skill set, I think Etienne's skill set is somewhat similar to a DeAndre Swift. And right now, I would take DeAndre Swift. And I've been high on DeAndre. I think that he was a product of a system that – you looked at the offensive system last year, so many changes. The offensive line wasn't great. They didn't perform well. Right now on paper, we're upgraded at offensive line. And I think we have a better play caller. Last year went through so many changes with that offense. There was no flow and no continuity. There was a carousel shuffle in terms of the offensive line. So I'm not making excuses for DeAndre Swift because there's a lot of things that he had to do better, and he'll come out and say that himself. But I think he is a victim of some of the things that went on offensively, just like a lot of the guys, DJ Moore, Caleb. Like, it was an injustice for those guys playing offense last year because of all of the changes that transpired.
Yeah, listen, I think you can't ignore a lot of what happened last season. My concern with Swifty has always been that I watched him behind Philly's offensive line, and people will tell me, well, he made a Pro Bowl. And I'll say, he did the exact same thing that he did here. He had a few explosive games where it was like, oh, my God, this dude just went off for 170 all scrimmage yards. And then he had games where, he averaged 1.9 yards per carry. And I do think the offensive line plays into that. But we also saw that behind an offensive line that ended up going to a Super Bowl the very next year when they upgraded that position. Here's the one thing I will ask you, though, with the upgrades that are here. I think you have to look at the coaching upgrades as well. We heard Eric Bieniemy go on Jeff Joniak's Chicago Bears podcast as well, Chicago Bears, etc., that they drop on YouTube there. And when DeAndre Swift was talking about or when Eric Bieniemy was talking about DeAndre Swift, what he said was, we like the ability he has to get outside, but we want him to know that there's 4.5 yards between those tackles that he can get. Does DeAndre Swift to you seem like the kind of running back who can take advantage of the 4.5 yards that Eric Bieniemy is expecting him to be able to get between the tackles? He seems more to me like an outside zone, bounce it to the outside kind of running back and use that skill set to get out in space.
I think DeAndre Swift is a complete back. I think where we saw him featured last year was more in an outside zone setting. I think obviously Ben Johnson's, I think his bread and butter has been outside zone. Also running inside zone up there in Detroit with David Montgomery. Yeah. But, Jahmyr Gibbs was an explosive back as well who can do a lot of different things. And I think DeAndre has the ability to do all of those things, to run inside, in between the tackles, being able to run, the different variations of just downhill physical runs, duo, power, all gap scheme runs that require an attitude of physicality. I think DeAndre Swift is capable of doing those things. And yes, DeAndre Swift's not a back that weighs 230 pounds, but, the same way I coach my running backs and the same way that we were coached is speed equals power, right? Explosive burst equals power. And that's what DeAndre Swift has. So, a lot of times when a play is blocked for 3 or 4 yards, if you're an elite back, you've got to be able to make that 4-yard play that is blocked for be 6 or 8. You know what I'm saying? You've got to be able to make somebody miss in a phone booth, run them over, do whatever you got to do to get extra yards. And a lot of times, in these running and the run schemes, like there's an extra defender in the box that's not accounted for. That's the running back's man, right? If you want to be elite, you got to make him miss. You got to run him over. And I think DeAndre Swift is a guy who's capable of, getting 4 yards in a cloud of dust. You know what I'm saying? In the run game, I think he is. And I think when you when you pair him with a Roschon Johnson, and I know we only got a small sample size of Roschon, a guy who's had a history of already of concussions, been in and out of lineup. I think he's another back that has ability to be able to obviously, we featured him a lot last year in between the tackles. So I think, you can have a tandem there if he stays healthy. You talk about the young back, Kyle Monangai. He's a 7th round pick. He's a rookie, and not trying to throw shade at him. There's still a lot of things that he has to learn. He hasn't even really seen the true speed of the game yet. Like, nobody's seen the true speed of the game. You're not going to get that in shorts or a controlled OTA or mini camp practice. So I think Monangai has a lot of ability. That's why he's here, but it still remains to be seen. For him, preseason is going to be huge, and for some of them other young backs on the roster. But I think right now, like, I wouldn't trade for Etienne. I think where we're at now, I think the running back room is fine without Etienne. I wouldn't give up anything for him just because I think his skill set is similar to what DeAndre Swift brings to the table.
Now, listen, there is I'll say this. There's no secret that I'm not the biggest DeAndre Swift fan on this podcast, right?
It's obvious.
It's fairly obvious, right? I have been very vocal about.
We're gonna ride up on Pat. We're gonna ride up on Pat after the show, man. Yeah,
pull up on me.
I got you.
Hey, pull up on me. No, but the one thing that I will say is, and the big thing is, I think that there's more to DeAndre Swift than what we've seen. The question is he going to be able to provide the more that we're waiting for? I kind of look at DeAndre Swift as a guy who has all the talents to be everything that I feel like we want to describe him as, but we just don't see it on an often enough basis. I do wonder, though, if there has become this, and you tell me how often you see this happen in the NFL. It almost feels like he's become typecasted as this outside zone only guy, where when I look at his ability in Detroit, he was very efficient in between the tackles when Ben Johnson was utilizing him in that role. In 2022, he was top 3 in efficiency, 6.5 yards per carry between the tackles, versus the rest of the time we've seen him outside zone and running to the outside. He's been about 3.1 yards per carry. Has DeAndre Swift just kind of gotten typecasted because he has the speed? Is like, you're an outside zone guy, we're going to utilize you more in that area? Or do you feel like there's more there that just hasn't been utilized from the coaching staffs?
I think when you look at his game, right, and it's yes, a lot of it's on Swift because he's the one carrying the ball, but I think you can put not a lot of the blame, but you can put it on the coaches as well, making sure that they're holding their room accountable to the details of each and every play. So, you're talking about outside zone, right? The running back, first of all, you have an aiming point, right? Whether it's the outside leg of the tight end, whether it's the butt of the tight end, if you're in gun offset, it could be the inside leg of the tight end or the outside leg of that play side tackle. Whatever the aiming point is, whatever team, whatever the aiming point is, right? You got to hold your backs accountable on each and every play in terms of aiming points, in terms of eye discipline, who are we reading? All those things have to be hammered into a running back in terms of the running game, right? Because all those things work together. The O-line, the running back, right? The O-line has landmarks and hat placements and different things that they're trying to make sure that they're focused on each and every play. And the same thing with the running back, right? Your steps, aiming point, your eyes all got to be on the same page according to the play that's called. And I think we look at DeAndre Swift, running outside zone. We saw him a lot of the times trying to cut back when he didn't have to, when he was able to, he had room to run his track and really press his aiming point and make a clear defined read. Instead, sometimes what happens is you start not trusting the guys in front of you and you start cutting that thing back before something takes you off your track. So I think it goes hand in hand. DeAndre Swift has to be more disciplined as a runner, right? And really stay disciplined and understand all the nuances of whatever play is called. But it's also up to that coach, that running back coach, Coach Bieniemy, to hold those guys to a standard each and every day. If you're not running your track on the outside zone, if you're not hitting your aiming point, then we've got to do something to make sure you're doing it. Otherwise, the next back will be in. So I think DeAndre has the ability to do a lot of different things. I think he's gotten away from doing the things that he's supposed to do. And it goes back to, okay, look at last year. And I love Coach Morton, but we're not in those meeting rooms. When they're watching the film, DeAndre's not running his track. He's cutting it back when he isn't supposed to, when he has the opportunity to really press that ball into the heels of the offensive line. what was being said? What was the offensive coordinator saying? Who was the offensive coordinator at the time? You know what I mean? It's a lot of things I think that you have to really think about when we just start placing the blame on DeAndre. Yes, a lot of it is his fault too, but it all starts with the OC, trickles down to the running back coach, and then to the player, right? We hear all the players this whole offseason, Pat, right? They talk about everybody's role, and everybody has a clear, defined understanding of what's expected from them per position, per room, right? When you have clear, defined roles, it makes it easier to go out there and play the game fast, because now I understand exactly what you want me to do and what you expect from me. But I'm also being held accountable on a daily basis in the meeting rooms, at practice, on the details and nuances in terms of my position and what's expected.
Yeah, I mean, I'll ask you this, because I feel like we've always talked about, right, the trust between the coach and the player on this on this podcast. But when you were on the sidelines last year and you see DeAndre Swift, right, cutting the run to the outside short, or you see him, not trusting that play, is there a lack of trust, you think, between DeAndre Swift and maybe the receivers on the outside, or if it was Cole Kmet on the outside, whoever was making that block? Because you did see that a ton last year, where it was like the play was there. DJ had it sealed, or Cole had it sealed. You got to hit that outside hole, and DeAndre would cut it back up because he's so used to getting hit. Was there a lack of trust, not only in the scheme that was happening last season, but also maybe between DeAndre and the players that were out there?
Yeah, like I said, I think it's a lot of things. You start, you see the shuffles in the carousel in terms of who's in front of you each and every Sunday, right? You see, okay, this guy's down. I got a young rookie in. There goes a little bit more of my confidence. It's his first start, second start, or whatever. And, you start running those plays, and bam, you get hit for a loss. Bam, you get hit for a loss. Okay, I've got to cut it back now, because I know, my guard's gotten beat 4 of the last 5 times we ran this play. I got to cut it back because I know I can't get outside. And then the one time you cut it back, he actually reaches or makes that block, and you had an opportunity to run your track and stay true to your aiming point and really get yards, but you had a predetermined cutback because you didn't trust the guys in front of you. You see what I'm saying? So it's a lot of things. And like I'm saying, that play is the play that'll get magnified. Oh, he cut it back. He had room here. You know what I mean? You start seeing ghosts, like we say, running backs. You start seeing things, right? Instead of staying true to the scheme, staying true to your rules and the details and nuances of each particular play. So it's a lot of things that's got to be cleaned up. DeAndre knows that. We heard his press conference a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
He even said he's got to be better. He knows that. And he knows, and I think he will. And I think, I'm going to go out on a limb, and I'm going to say it healthy. He will run for 1,000 yards. Now, it's only 50, 59 yards, 60 yards a game if he plays all, every game to reach 1,000 yards. He's very capable of doing that.
Yeah.
And like I said, on paper, we have an upgrade in offensive line. They still got to go out there and play. I know Joe Tooney's all world. I know Jonah Jackson's a really good player. I know Drew Dahlman's a new player. New scheme, new system, new coach, new way of doing things, new building for all of these guys. They still got to go out there on the grass and play. On paper, it's an upgrade, right? But they still got to go out there and prove it.
How long did it take for y'all to build that confidence when you went from Jerron to Lovey getting into the season? How long into the season was it when you were like, oh snap, all that stuff we did, that was legit. Like we ready to hit the ground now.
So the crazy thing is, going from Jerron to Lovey's first year, man, training camp was ridiculous. That's the training camp where Brian Urlacher had a pulled hamstring.
Yeah.
I mean, guys were hurt. I think Thomas Jones was hurt. Like, training camp was a gauntlet. We had 2 true full padded practices, and we had live periods, whether it was goal line, short yardage, third down. He always had a theme of the day. And we're like, man, this dude's crazy. And we were like 5-11 that year. And obviously the doubt creeped in. We're like, man, this dude doesn't know what he's doing. We're all hurt. My shoulders were gone before the season started because all of the contacting we had during training camp. And then the next year we took that big jump. So it's just, as a player, you have to trust the process. You have to trust who's leading you. You really have no other choice. You can't make a change at head coach as a player. I've got to trust that my head coach, my coordinator, whether that be my offensive coordinator or defensive coordinator, all the way down to my position coach, understands, what they're really making sure that we understand what the goal is, and they're doing everything that they can to make sure that we're successful as individuals, and the more successful we are as individuals, the more successful we'll be as a team.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what ends up happening this season. Very excited about I think the opportunity for DeAndre Swift is there to really take over, and I think
Yeah.
there's a lot of expectation that because Ben Johnson moved on, it was a part of moving on from him before, that could be the situation here again, especially after a down year. He's got all the opportunity, and he's getting the run with the ones. He's the guy that everybody's looking at. We'll see what ends up happening through the season. Hopefully, we see DeAndre dominate that running back room and bounce back to the guy that was dominant in Detroit very early on. Hit that like button if you have not done so. Subscribe to the page. Leave a 5-star review. Y'all know what to do. We're going to keep the show moving along because got to talk with J-Mac about this Shemar Stewart situation. Because I feel like you need a player's perspective on this, where the Bengals just seem, we see the Trey Hendrickson thing going on where 35 sacks. Hey, buddy, you're not worth the money. We're not looking to pay you anything that you want. 35 sacks. Hey, buddy, you're not worth the money.
We'll take them.
Hey, bro, in a heartbeat. You know what I mean? And then you see the now Shemar Stewart situation. The Shemar Stewart in a very different situation, not the same kind of player, at least right now. It looks that way as Trey Hendrickson is, but you drafted this kid, you bring him in. He's still working through a ton of stuff, trying to be there as much as possible, trying to be in the building, trying to be in the classroom situations and stuff like that. But essentially, the contract, if you guys don't know out there that are listening, the contract they're trying to get him to sign, if he does anything that they deem is a detriment to the team or at any point gets suspended, they can take away his guaranteed money. And he is not willing to sign a deal like that. I don't think there's any player that is willing to sign a deal like that. The question that I have for you, J-Mac, from the player perspective, if you're in the league right now, how does that change your view of the organization that the Bengals is? And how do you think this will affect them moving forward with getting contracts done, getting free agents to come to Cincinnati? Because I would think a lot of players around the league have to be looking at this and going, this is a terrible place to try and make money. And at the end of the day, we play for the love of the game, but also to get paid for it.
Yeah, and I think you look at it, it's a tough situation because, you can't say Cincinnati doesn't pay its players. They pay Joe, they pay T, they pay Shemar. You know what I'm saying?
There's a clear line of demarcation, though.
Right. All offensive guys. You know what I mean? But they did pay them. They did pay them.
Yes,
they paid them. So that's tough. Especially when you're a rookie like Shemar and you're there. You've been in the building. Even when you're unsigned, you're really unemployed, but you're still in the building. You're still doing the things that you're supposed to do. You're trying to get familiar with your new teammates, get acclimated to the locker room, just build a bond with your position coach, learn the defensive scheme and playbook, and then all of a sudden you can't get your contract signed because of things that they're trying to experiment with in this contract. All the new clauses they're trying to put in, talking about voiding guaranteed money. Like, that's tough. That's a tough situation. No, I don't think he should sign that contract. It's like you said, like, what? Like, you're going to void this if I do this? Like, no. Don't sign it. I think he made the right move by not being there. But he showed that he's committed and he wants to be there because he was there before, all this stuff was happening, showing that, hey, I want to be a part of this organization. You guys drafted me because you felt like I could be a key piece of this defense. And then all of a sudden now this contract stuff is starting to, come into play. So he shouldn't sign it. I think that at the end of the day, I think he'll get what he wants. I mean, they need him. You ain't going to sign Trey. You better get it right with Shemar. Otherwise, Cincinnati, good luck trying to score 40 points a game.
And score 40 doesn't work for him.
And he's still going to lose.
He was putting up 40, and they were losing those games.
That's what I'm saying. Still losing by a touchdown or field goal. Like, what are we doing? Make sense.
I think J-Mac, like, I think there's a situation here though. Like, if you're Shemar Stewart, now I wouldn't advise this of him. I think if you've got an opportunity to play in the NFL, you play in the NFL. But apparently, there's an opportunity for him to basically forego this season, come back next year, go back into the draft, and go to a different team and hope for the best. Right in that situation. Is that something that you think would make sense here? Like, if you see the writing on the wall of like, okay, y'all just don't like paying defensive players, clearly.
No.
And I can go out here and get all the sacks I want, and y'all aren't going to try and give me this money. Would it almost be beneficial to him to just kind of wait it out this year and go back into the draft next season?
No, because you're taking an even bigger risk. Injury, you know what I'm saying? Mainly injury. And then if I play worse, am I still going to get slated to be a first round pick? That's not a guarantee.
Well, he can't. I don't know. Is there a league he can play in while the NFL is at? Like, the CFL is done, right?
I don't know. Can he play
XFL is done.
UFL? I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Like,
or the UFL. Yeah, I think the UFL is done already. So, like,
yeah, that's what I mean. And then to sit out and to not play meaningful football is different. Just to go there and lift and do different drills every day, on a pop-up bag, and get a pass rush on a pop-up bag, and try to simulate what you're going to encounter in a game through workout sessions is not the same. You're never going to get the true speed of the game. You're not in the locker room. You don't have an understanding of what your role and responsibility is within that defense. So I think you continue to hold out. He's already shown good faith that he's committed to the Bengals by being there before this stuff came out. I think they'll get it. I think it'll get rectified, and I think he will end up signing a good contract. But I think he needs to stand his ground. But I think Cincinnati's going to come around. You ain't going to make me the guinea pig with this and with these voids and clauses and stuff like that on my contract. I'm sure that's what Shemar's, the people around him, his agents and whoever's doing his contract, that's what they're saying. But I'm pretty sure they're going to get this done.
Well, I think this is the weirdest situation too, because you've got the Shemar Stewart situation happening here with the Bears, that none of our second round picks are signed because of the contracts given out. The fully guaranteed contracts given out to second round picks. Like, this is an interesting year, and it's almost like, it almost feels like, J-Mac, the NFL is trying to prove a point this season, or certain teams in the NFL are trying to prove a point this season. I think when you saw the Shedeur Sanders during the draft, him falling to the 5th round, it felt like they were basically saying, hey, listen, I want you to understand, Mr. NIL, that this is the NFL, and we are the ones that tell you what to do. It's not the other way around. And then you see Shedeur fall all the way to the 5th round, and we'll see if he ends up being the guy in Cleveland or not. I think even with this, with the second round picks, right, you're kind of trying to see the NFL draw a line in the sand, saying, we're not giving you fully guaranteed contracts. Don't think that you are them. And we don't care what those teams did. It just seems like there's a lot of pushback between young players coming from the college game right now to the NFL game, maybe more than there's ever been before.
Yeah, it is different. Like you said, it's definitely weird. We talked about our second round pick too.
I mean, Luther Burden has not signed. Ozzie Tupelo has not signed. Shemar Turner has not signed.
Yeah, it is. They're gonna have. Here's the thing, right? They're gonna do us right because they need those guys in camp. Yeah, you know what I'm saying. We need Ozzie in the building. We need Luther in the building. Like, we need our Shemar in the building. You know what I mean? Shemar in the bit. Like, they got to get it done, and I think that's, like you said, trying to teach guys a lesson per se, or just make them have a true understanding of who runs it. Not the NFL's going to run it, not the players, and that's never going to change. Like, the NFL's going to run it, regardless of our players' union and stuff like that. The NFL is still going to be the overall dictator of things. But at the end of the day, I think they're going to get these contracts rectified to make sure that these guys are in camp. Especially with the coaches. I mean, Ben Johnson's. He's not happy about not having Luther in camp, or Ozzie. Like, he's going to be real and not having him in training camp. Like, come on, he'll be knocking on Ryan's door. Come on, Ryan. We talked about this when I took the job. Yeah.
Well, I mean, Ozzie and Shemar have been there. Luther's been banged up, but Luther has been there for everything that's been mandatory. He was there from rookie minicamp. I believe he was there during the OTA process.
That's minicamp, though.
I believe he was there during the OTA process. I think he got banged up during the OTA process. Yeah, so one of the days where the media wasn't up there.
Right, but I'm saying, if you continue to, I don't know what the Bears have offered those guys in terms of the contract. Is it a similar situation, what we're seeing in Cincinnati? I don't know. I don't want to speak on it because I don't know. But I'm saying, let's just say, hypothetically, not to make up news because it's the off season, but just to say that that they are doing that.
Yeah.
Well, then if I'm that player, I'm not going to training camp because I'm not risking anything. You know what I mean? Like, I've got to stand my ground to get the contract that I want and deserve. And, you know, coaches, they understand that it's a numbers game. Money talks, you know, in the NFL. But at the same time, as a head coach, as a position coach, those coaches are going to be knocking on Ryan Poles' door. Like, we got to get our guy in here. Like, we're losing valuable time. We're installing things. We're trying to establish who's going to win that left tackle job. You know, we're trying to make sure that we have a role for Luther in this offense. And if the longer he's not here, the harder it is for them to be able to make an impact.
Let's take it back. Let's take it all the way back, right? The undrafted rookie J-Mac trying to get on a team here, and he's doing everything that he can. Now, very different situation to being a second round pick.
I was gonna say,
Well, I was gonna say very different situation, but I think the pressure on the young player to, I guess, kind of have that line in the sand of I'm not going to cross. What's the mindset there of you probably want to just get the contract done, be signed to be on the field, but also you don't want to be the guy that's like, well, I just screwed over everybody else because I'm the one that took the first amount of money that wasn't the guaranteed contract. How do you balance that out as a player?
Yeah, I think, man, it's tough. It's tough. I think you, as a player, you're just like, hey, I got to make sure I'm in shape. I got to make sure I'm doing everything I'm supposed to do so that way I can go out here and perform and make an impact and be more than the guy they envisioned when they drafted me. You know what I'm saying? So you got to trust your team. You got to trust your agent or whoever's handling your contract negotiation to make sure that you get the right deal, that's the right deal that's for you, but also the right deal that's slated in terms of where you got picked, where you got drafted at. So as a player, I think you can only focus on the things that you can control, and that's making sure that you're in shape and you're ready to go when training camp starts.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. I feel bad for the young guys because it's like, it's almost like being the dude that crosses the picket line during the lockouts, right? It's like, man, look, I want to play football. I don't care.
That's when you're undrafted like me, I didn't sign a bonus. I said, look, man, just give me a free Philly cheesesteak card. I was in Philly. Give me a free Philly cheesesteak card. Make sure, just give me any number. Like, I'm here. I know what I'm going to do when I hit that football field. You know, I'm going to be a guy that's going to play for a long time. And you know, when you're not a guy that has the opportunity to get a big contract initially, you got to work for it. You know, you got a different mindset. You know, I was just thrilled that I had an opportunity to play in the NFL.
Yeah, it's that's, you sound like Waddle too. Like Waddle was like when Luther Burden talked about why'd he get 87, he was like all the other good numbers were gone. Waddle was like, I said they did the same thing to me. Like I wore 87 because I was happy to be in the league. They gave me a number. I didn't care which number I was wearing. It said Bears on the front.
Yeah, everybody would ask me, well, how'd you pick 37? I said, whatever number when I get to that facility is in that locker, that's the number I'm going to wear for the rest of my career. Because one, it's a blessing to be here, but at the end of the day, it's like, hey, you know what? I don't care what number they give me. I'm here, but I knew I was a guy that was going to go out there and compete my ass off every day and go out there and make an impact. And you know, and a decade later, you know, you're still playing in the league. You know, so whatever number was in my locker, it was 37. You know, I didn't care. I didn't get a huge.
You were 35 in Dallas, right?
Yeah, when I went to Dallas, I was the same thing. Hey, go to Dallas, whatever number you give me, you know. Was in Baltimore, was 38. Whatever number you give me, I'll take it.
So T-Man did it. So that's what you said. T-Man is the
one.
Man
looked out, man, at 37. I loved it. T-Man hooked me up, man, you know. Well, actually, no, when I came here, the funny thing is when I came to Chicago, I was 38. So Brian Urlacher's younger brother, Casey Urlacher, was a fullback for us. You probably didn't even know that. He was
I remember Casey. I remember that.
Out of Lake Forest College. Shout out to my guy, Coach Catanzaro, the head coach of Lake Forest College. But he had 37, and then he got released, and then I took 37 after he got released because I was like, hey, I'm just going to keep wearing 37 if I can.
Yeah. Hey, that's such a throwback. Here's how.
Casey.
No, here's how legit. And it's such a different time, too, because we signed a fullback. I remember hearing that we had signed Brian Urlacher's brother. And I was like, we got Urlachers on both sides of the field. We're going to be the greatest football team.
Bro, this is not even funny, bro. This is And you know what? I want to tell this story, but I don't, because I don't want the person I tell this story about to be mad at me. But it's so hilarious.
Dog, you got to put it out there now. You didn't tease the story.
I know, man,
now,
and
dog.
I want to tell the listeners and the viewers, but I'm gonna hold off on it. Let me cross-reference this story, which not cross-referencing it for the accuracy, but just so that way I can actually
make sure that it's okay to be out there.
Yeah. And I don't think they would mind either person, but it's such a great story that I want Bears fans to hear, since we kind of got on this topic. It's a funny story, nothing bad. It just kind of it would go to show you how, like, the humor and how much of, we were just big kids at that time. Back in the day, like, we were such a funny group. This was a great story. I think Bears fans would love to hear. But I'm gonna hold on. I'm gonna make sure I get it out there. I gotta make sure it's okay first.
That's a heck of a tease right there.
I know, man.
That's a week-long tease, J-Mac.
And like we said, we love our viewers. We appreciate you guys rocking with us. Leave comments in the chat. Yes, if you want to cuss me out for not telling the story, cuss me out. But once I get the okay to tell the story, I'm gonna tell the story to you guys.
I need come on J-Max in the chat. That's what I need. I need come on J-Max all throughout the chat.
Hey, man,
to get this story out there, man.
It's band of brothers, man. I can't just tell all the stories. I got to cross-reference with my guys first. But I do want to tell you guys. It's a funny story.
Well, listen, on that note, let's finish out the show on this, man. Appreciate you guys for tuning in, showing love. Hit that like button, subscribe to the page, leave a 5-star review. Y'all know what to do. As Jason McKie was a dog on the field, and this Bears team seems like they got a bunch of dogs out there. We do as always, the dog of the week. There's been a lot of players to choose from this week. There's a lot going on. We got Stanley Cup Finals. We got the NBA Finals going on. There's a lot to pick from here. Who you got as your dog of the week, J-Man?
I'm going Tyrese Halliburton. So
what the hell,
bro? But here's the thing, though. Like when was it? Sunday, right? When they played, what was that? Game 2? Am I right?
Game 2.
Sunday was game 2.
Game 2.
You had like 5 points in 3 quarters. I was so mad. Like, what are you doing? Like, what is? Because I bet on points for Halliburton. So I was mad. I was like, he don't want to shoot the ball. He wants to pass the ball. Like, what is going on, man?
Yeah.
And then I don't bet last game, and of course he goes off. That's how it goes. But I mean, just the fact that, when his team needed him most, he took over, and not just took over. He made a huge impact. He made the shots when necessary. And then you look at the flip side, look at SGA. When his team needed him, he didn't make them critical buckets that they needed. So obviously the Dawgs had to go to Tyrese Halliburton. I'm excited about the game tonight, but Tyrese did his thing. He got Indiana on back up in the finals 2-1.
Yep.
And excited what they do here tonight. It's going to be a good one.
Listen, my dog of the week, and you do your dog. We always do one positive, one negative. You went good dog this week. I'm going to go with the bad dog. My dog of the week is Adam Silver for saying, hey, Tyrese, I need you to calm down, brother. Somebody get Scott Foster on the phone. We need to extend this series. We need to make sure that the Indiana Pacers do not go out there and win this series. I hope that Indiana does come out and compete well tonight. They've only lost one game at home in the playoffs in totality. I think that this is gonna. I'm not gonna lie to you, J-Mac. I came into this series and I said, I said OKC in 3. I was like, it's gonna be such a quick sweep. Like, we don't even need to play the 4th game. I think Indiana has turned my mindset, because watching them play at home, you watched a championship polished head coach. You watched a championship polished player in Pascal Siakam. You watched a young player who's just getting everybody involved, but also realizing he needs to step up in Tyrese Halliburton. You're seeing championship qualities on the Indiana Pacers. And I'm just not seeing that nearly as much from the Oklahoma City Thunder. Again, you've only got one player, I believe, that's been in the finals. That's Alex Caruso. Yeah. And you just haven't, and you've got a coach who's never been in this situation, and Mike Dagnall. Like, you being on the field, you being in this situation, right? Like, that experience of being in the playoffs and being in those big moments matters. And I think you're seeing that play out more for Indiana than you are for Oklahoma City.
So I'm going to go ahead and take OKC. With all that good insight about Indiana, I'm going to take, because every time I bet with everything I should, I lose. So I'm gonna go opposite. I'm gonna go OKC.
you gonna do me like Bob, what wire should I cut? The red one. All right, cut the blue one. Bob's never right.
No, that's me, because every time this is gonna do this is gonna happen. It's the opposite. So I'm going against me. I'm going against all that great insight that you just gave us, all the facts. You broke it down from player to the coach to this.
Well, J-Mac, if you talk about just the night, Scott Foster's there. SGA about to be at the line 36 times.
Yeah.
Hey, whatever the line is, bet the over for SGA at the free throw line tonight.
Yeah, for sure, man. For sure.
Hey, man, we appreciate y'all for tuning in. As always, hit that like button, subscribe to the page, leave a 5-star review. Y'all know what to do. Make sure that you tap in with everything we got going on at the podcast here. We got some fun stuff coming you guys' way, especially with J-Mac here. We're going to do a lot of stuff this upcoming couple of weeks, possibly have some guests on, and possibly even do some film breakdown of what Ben Johnson did previously to being a Chicago Bears. So we'll keep you guys entertained with all that and more. Hit that like button, subscribe to the page. For Jason McKie, it's your boy Pat the Designer. Back at it again. Y'all stay safe out there, Chicago. Bear down. One love.
Bear down.